This is Wellspring, presented by Spectrum Health-Zeeland Community Hospital on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.
And for this Thursday, December the 8th, we are very pleased to have from Corewell Health-Zeeland Hospital, Sara Donkersloot. Good morning, Sara.
Good morning and welcome to Wellspring, a live broadcast sponsored by Spectrum Health-Zeeland Community Hospital. Would you know what to do if a fire started in your home? My guest is Zeeland City Fire Chief Ross Tibbets, who will give you some fire safety tips. Good morning, Chief Tibbets.
Good morning, Sara. How are you?
I am great. And I have to set the record straight because October was National Fire Prevention Week and you were scheduled to be a guest. And I didn't provide the station with your email, so you were waiting to be connected. But I want to publicly offer my apologies as you were ready and willing. And I also want to express my thanks that you are here today because, you know, safety tips are always relevant, whether it's fire prevention month or right now in the Christmas season. So thanks for being here today.
You betcha.
So first of all, I have to ask, why did you want to have a career in firefighting?
Well, I feel honored to have grown up in a family of fire service members, being third generation, and just the exposure to the career field as I was growing up, it just seemed kind of natural. And I guess I really haven't thought about doing anything other than being in the fire service. So yeah, it's been something that I've always wanted to do.
And you love it. How long have you been in your role at Zeeland?
My role in Zeeland, I'm approaching the 4-year mark next April. So we're about 3.5 years in now, just over 3.5 years. So,
you know, you said you love your job. What do you enjoy most about your work?
A lot of things. I don't think the show has enough time allotted for me to rant and rave about what I like about my job. But I guess a few things that I'd like to highlight, aside from the variety of tasks such as administrative work, fire prevention, attending meetings. The unique thing about the fire service and public safety service in general is the fact that we can't predict when a call is coming in or what that call type may be. It's just that state of readiness, preparedness, and whatever the day may bring. Many times you get stuff scheduled on your calendar and a couple calls can throw all that off for the day. Most of all, I like to serve the community and help others.
Well, and, you know, right now you're doing that because none of us likes to think about, you know, having a fire, but it is important to be prepared. So, you know, thanks for providing this education. So if there's a fire, what should you do?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of stuff. I think it's always best to start out with the concept of preparedness and prevention. Let's see what we can do on the front end to eliminate or minimize the chance of a fire beginning or starting. But beyond that, the thought of implementing your escape plan, staying low, crawling out, go to a meeting place, call 911, and then obviously never go back in to get something.
You know, you talk about an escape plan. Should people practice their evacuation plan and what should be included in it? And just give us some thoughts about that whole aspect.
Sure. Actually, the theme for fire prevention this year is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. So during the National Fire Prevention Week this year, back in October, members from Zeeland Fire Rescue were out every day talking to kids about having an escape plan. And having an escape plan is an important part of being prepared. The next step is, how do you exercise that? How do you test that? Because obviously we want to make sure if we're developing a plan, that we're testing it to make sure that it's effective. And then when you test it, you can evaluate if there's any changes that would need to be made to enhance or make that plan better.
So, my guest today is Chief Ross Tibbets from the Zeeland Fire Department, and we are by Zoom, but we do have a caller that called in with a question. And if you do have a question, you can call 395-1450. That's 395-1450. But Gary, please share that listener's question with us.
A listener wanted to know, Sarah and Ross, dealing with Christmas time and some of the dangers. We had Chris Tinney on last week from the Holland Fire Department, but the listener couldn't listen at the time. Wanted to know, what is the biggest concern right now? Is it the trees? Is it the heat, or what? Because these Christmas trees could be going up any time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's again many different things to consider at all times when it comes to fire safety, fire prevention, but especially during the holidays, there's a lot of things to consider. One being that when you use decorations, whenever possible, try to make sure that they're flame retardant or non-flammable. The other thing would be check all your holiday lights each year for frayed wires, excessive wear, anything that could result in some sort of electrical issue or electrical fire. And then with anything, not just holiday decorations, but anytime you're dealing with appliances or anything like that, we should always focus on following the manufacturer's recommendations as to how to properly use that piece of equipment or appliance, along with lights and stuff like that. So the other thing, never leave candles unattended. According to NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, actually year-round, more than 1/3 of homes, home decoration fires are actually started by candles. So when you think about that 1/3, that's a pretty high fraction there. So the other thing, obviously, a lot of people do use or have the live trees versus the artificial, and can't stress enough to make sure that those remain watered so that they don't dry out. And another statistic is that 1 in 5 Christmas tree fires are caused by heat sources being too close to these trees. So those are just a couple of examples of things to look for and to consider during the holiday season. I would always refer people to the NFPA website to look up additional information. There's a ton of statistics out there about various causes of fire and the different effects of it.
Great question. And we were going to talk about that later. So I appreciate the listener calling in because it's on the top of our minds. A lot of people have artificial trees and they're on a timer, and, the timer may go off, when they're not home, because they just, it looks pretty when you can go past somebody's house and there's a lit tree. Is it okay to keep that on when you're not home if you've checked your lights and there's no frayed, and you don't have a zillion on one cord? You've done all those precautions. Thoughts about that?
Sure. So again, I would say there's probably a manufacturer recommendation component of this too, but I would say, like any appliances, it's always best to turn stuff off when you're not around or not going to be home. It's just one of those things that it's one additional step in prevention. Let's do what we can to potentially prevent that fire from happening, and take whatever precautions we may need to take to minimize that risk of a fire starting.
Also, in the winter season and people are, lighting up their fireplace. Thoughts about that? I mean, should you have somebody come and check your fireplace to make certain there's not a buildup?
Yeah, I think that's an important factor. Many people do seek out some sort of fireplace evaluation and inspection, make sure all the bricks are intact and that the flue does not have excessive buildup, because it most certainly can lead to some sort of chimney fire and obviously cause additional damage if it's not inspected and operated when it's not in a condition that it should be.
We're talking about fires, and we've talked about an evacuation plan. If there is a fire in your home, like you say, you got to get out. How long do people have to get out of a room that has started burning or is filled with smoke?
Sure. That's a little bit of a loaded question there. There's a lot of variables that come into play with how quick you need to get out. Obviously, the quicker the better. But I think the important thing to hit home with that is the importance of having smoke alarms, adequate number of smoke alarms, and operating smoke alarms. These are obviously at any point in time going to give you the earliest notification in the event that there is smoke starting to fill a home.
So let's talk about those smoke alarms because they do save lives. What should you look for when you purchase one?
Well, yeah, I think one thing that I would usually consider purchasing a smoke detector, I always like to try to purchase smoke detectors that have a reputable brand, that are a reputable brand versus some smoke alarms out there don't even necessarily have a legit brand name. So I would say going to a store that carries reputable brand name smoke detectors. And then the other thing that's new, and not new, but kind of important, is a lot of the smoke alarms are starting to transition to the 10-year sealed battery type, that the battery is good for 10 years and you can't take the battery out. So there are documented cases where smoke detectors were present in the home, but someone happened to grab the batteries out of there to use it for some other device that required batteries. So having those 10-year sealed units, I would think makes some sort of difference too.
And how many should there be in a home?
Each house, it may vary. Right now, the current recommendation is to have one in every bedroom, one outside the bedroom in the area of the sleeping or the bedrooms, and then at a minimum one per floor beyond that. So a lot of it depends on the number of bedrooms, the way that those bedrooms are configured in the home, and then the number of floors that are in the home as well.
You mentioned about the 10-year batteries, but probably most people just have it, where they have, the battery that you can take out. How often should they be checked? And then how often should you replace the batteries to make certain, they're going to alert in the event of a fire?
Sure. The current recommendation for checking batteries or checking the smoke alarm is actually once a month and after replacing the batteries. The current recommendation for how often they should be changed is at least twice a year. We typically recommend around the spring ahead, fall back time change year, which is just a good reminder that that's a good time to consider doing this.
Another listener called in and had a question dealing with carbon monoxide awareness. Chief, can you address that?
Sure. Yeah, carbon monoxide is obviously a gas that you can't see, you can't smell, but it's produced by your furnaces that are gas fed, your stoves, ovens that are gas fed. Any gas fed appliance has the ability to produce carbon monoxide, and it's definitely a recommendation to have carbon monoxides in the home. And the current recommendation would be at least one per floor. And you'd probably want to place that somewhere in the vicinity of the sleeping areas so that if carbon monoxide was being produced overnight, it would be close enough to a sleeping area that people would hear that, similar to a smoke alarm.
So, Chief Tibbets, we have about a minute left. What's your last thoughts for those people who are listening? We never want to have your team show up at our door, but if so, we know that they will provide wonderful service. But a parting thought.
Yeah, I think the thing that's important is the prevention side of it again. Let's do what we can to prevent a fire from starting in the first place. And I think the other things to think about are right now, cooking fires still remains one of the highest causes of fire in a home. So I would emphasize don't leave food cooking unattended. Make sure if you're using a portable space heater that you're using it in a fashion that is safe. Portable heaters are very popular this time of year just to add a little additional heat, and they often can cause a fire if they're too close to combustible materials. So the current recommendation for use of a portable heater is actually to plug it directly into a wall outlet versus an extension cord. A lot of extension cords are not rated to power a portable heater. Again, keep it away from combustible materials. And then a lot of people have pets in their home, so make sure that portable heater has a tip over protection feature that if a pet or someone else were to tip that over, that it automatically shuts off.
Well, we're out of
Um,
time. We are out of time, and I am so thankful that we were able to connect. Thanks for being here, Ross, and thanks for the service that you and your team provide. And until next week, Spectrum Health-Zeeland Community Hospital wishes you well.